Viewers, welcome back to the India Shining channel. This is the new name for what we have been doing for the last couple of years. And this is the 11th episode. I hope you will find a lot of interesting topics that would really warm up your hearts and have a very positive orientation and thinking about what's happening in India. The first news that's coming up on the international affairs is US has lifted the COVID travel ban for vaccinated Indian passengers from November, which means there's no need for quarantine for any passenger going from India to US. So earlier we were taking a very a longer route, maybe through Dubai or UK. But now even if you had to go there, there was a necessity to quarantine. Now that's all. The very second positive news on an international level pertaining to India is we are going to have a Quad summit, which is going to be an in-person meeting after a very long time. So during the pandemic, all these Quad meetings were predominantly virtual. And now we are going to see the Prime Minister going down to US to meet his other Quad partners, which is Australia and Japan, along with US. So the key areas of focus here is going to be from the cyber security and also to create a trusted supply chain. That will be one of the main items on the agenda. There will also be an agenda which will be to harmonize the standards and so that we can create a very strong supply chain which can bypass China, because we all know that the world has been suffering from the supply side constraints with respect to chips, the movement in their harbors, and a whole lot of disruptive things that our neighborhood country seems to be doing. And finally, it will also be discussing about India, Japan, US and Australia collaborating on their areas of strength. So we know Australia and US are abundant with respect to their minerals, and India also has got a very strong iron ore resource. But the primary objective of this meeting will be to use India's design and software capability, and Japan and US to take care of the manufacturing and the raw materials to be coming from Australia. So we are for the first time seeing the Quad becoming something a very serious group. It's just not something on the discussion board, and this is just coming on the back of a formal military kind of an alliance being created between UK, US and Australia called as AUKUS. And all these three countries were already part of the 5i collaboration, which also included New Zealand and Canada. And now you are seeing that there is a very serious shift of arming Australia to take on China in the South China Seas. And the collaboration with India, though the Quad is not primarily a military kind of an alliance, but it is a very strong commercial kind of an alliance, and India is going to immensely benefit out of the outcome of this. The second very interesting event that has happened in the world, which is something that we all need not be very proud of, but it would go on to show the kind of an extent our neighbor in the East can go to tilt things in his favor. So World Bank has suspended the ease of doing business rankings, because it was found by an independent lawyer called Wilmer Hale, which shows that China had a massive data manipulation to hide their slippage in rankings. So the law firm had studied more than 80,000 documents and used extensive interviews to compile a report on 2000 and 2020 ease of doing business rankings. And it was very clearly with substantial evidence submitted that the clout of China, that in World Bank, China has been a major donor and a person who has been opening the purse strings to World Bank. The World Bank senior management has been putting pressure on these people to reverse or at least show that China's slippage is not very visible. Actually, China's ease of doing business had fallen from 78 to 85. And another country which had a very similar case was Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabia was listed ahead of Jordan. So you can see that World Bank's credibility has been lost. Now, this is not the first international organization which is losing credibility because of China. Sometime back we saw that World Health Organization, WHO, had lost its credibility based on the report that they had submitted on the origins of the coronavirus. And so we have been seeing that China has been using its leverage, it's been using its financial muscle, and it has been employing every trick under the magician's hat to ensure that a very favorable impression of their country is projected. Now these things falling out is also become very positive for India, because there was also an audit on whether India's ranking were right, and the audit firm has come out and say that everything with respect to India's papers and the judgment is right. So it's not about a one-upmanship, which also goes on to show that as a civilization we have been a little bit more ethical when compared to our neighbors. Coming to the national side, on the macros, the one good news that we have is that the fiscal deficit has reduced. So our fiscal deficit for the quarter ending July is on a 9-year low of 21.3% of the annual budget. So the current fiscal deficit is just 3.21 lakh crores, and this is substantially lower than what was envisaged. Now it could mean two things. One thing is our non-plan expenditure could have been down, or our tax collections have been up. Now we have been seeing that there has been an upswing on the GST collections, and there has also been an upswing on the collection on central excise with the transport sector coming back into the economy, and a lot of the COVID restrictions being removed. So government has been collecting a very hefty amount as central excise from the sale of oil, the fuel, and I think with these things happening, there's a very good possibility that the future borrowings can continue to stay lower, because the government is also very seriously considering disinvestment as a major effort this year, and that will roll out. You're going to see Air India being completely privatized, and BPCL being completely privatized, and a host of other companies which are also on the disinvestment block. And with increased tax collections, we have also seen that the second advance tax pay, the second installment of advance tax paid by the top 20 companies have almost doubled. So there's a very bright possibility that the fiscal deficit remains far lower, and therefore there's a good possibility that the interest rates continue to be dovish. So the next item which is of great interest is Cabinet is likely to clear 7 mega textile parks. Now this has been fashioned on the lines of how China and Vietnam have been able to come, very successfully roll out and increase their market share with respect to textile exports. Now India was historically a very great textile hub. In fact, that's one of the reasons the British came over here. And then if you see every big city like Mumbai, Chennai or Pondicherry, any of these things, we had huge textile mills. In fact, the first round of industrialization that actually happened in India was around textile mills. But most of them, after having been taken over by National Textile Corporation, have just turned sick or languishing, and just the real estate is left out. Now, the idea that the government is trying to do it is to use the traditional, the base that we had with respect to textile, because India, we also grow cotton, we have large amount of labor, and generally textile industry and garment industry are huge employment generators for the bottom of the pyramid people, because that's something where you can employ people without much of education qualification. And the textile ministry's proposal is to set up parks with 1,000 acres in the next 3 years, minimum of 7 mega parks of each park of 1,000 acres in the next 3 years. The key USP behind these parks will be it will provide integrated facilities with respect to logistics, transshipment, customs clearance, and it will also have a plug and play infrastructure with respect to the textiles. Sometimes you may even have a common effluent treatment plant, and the whole idea is to have a very quick turnaround and minimize the transportation losses. Now, with setting up of this, it is expected that there will be a lot of fresh investment that will get attracted, and as we discussed earlier, it will also be a large employment generator. The next very major initiative that has been undertaken by the central government is the flavor of the season seems to be the production linked incentives. Now, the government recently came out and announced a production-linked incentive for the auto sector. So, the size of the incentive is around 25,938 crores. Now, the difference with respect to this auto sector PLI is it has to be seen along with the earlier production-linked incentive which was announced for advanced chemistry or the battery cell technology, and also the subsidies that is being given by the government for called as FAME, which is basically the faster adoption of manufacturing of electric vehicles. And so the PLI for advanced cell chemistry is around 18,100 crores. The FAME subsidy is around 10,000 crores in a year, and now this 25,938 crores of production linked incentive to promote transition to advanced technology. The idea of the government seems to be creating a very large infrastructure, or to make India as the hub for the next generation of transportation, which is predominantly battery electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell technologies. And the idea is to make India the global supply chain hub of global supply chain. And the current the share in the advanced automobile technology in India is around 3%, and the idea is to increase it to 18%, and so that we become something of relevance. And one of the reasons the production linked incentives is being bought in is, right now India has got a 15 to 30% price disadvantage with respect to this technology. So providing this production linked incentive will attract a lot more companies into into India, and therefore an ecosystem gets developed, and then the industry academia linkages happen, and that is a kind of a very positive circle, that one feeding into the other. So there are two components to this incentive. One is called as the Champion OEM incentive, which is a sales value linked scheme for both battery electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cell technology for all segments. And the second one is called as component champion incentive scheme. Here the sales value, the whole idea is to look at the qualitative aspect about or the components that go into any one of those the whole technology. So here in the second part, it will meet, or the whole idea will be to focus more on the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, into the vehicle side of it, while the first side, which is the Champion OEM side, will be more on creating the infrastructure on the advanced cell chemistry and the technology side. The second one will be more on the component side. So viewers, stay tuned for the next edition of the same 11th episode of our India Shining video channel. And till then, stay safe, stay healthy. We look forward to your subscriptions. Thank you so much.